Hi and welcome back. My name's Martin, and in this next video in which we're looking at the OpenInsight 10 series, we're going to look at creating an application. Now a couple of people ask about these images that I've got on my screen. They're going to change throughout the process, but this particular one, it's a picture of a hurricane taken at the anniversary, one of the anniversary air shows of the Battle of Britain over in Duxford. And this was actually taken with me standing on the ground, believe it or not. It looks like I'm up in the air with this hurricane, but unfortunately no, I'm on the floor. And it was taken from a bit of a distance with my camera with a 400mm lens. It's actually a 200mm lens with an extender for those that you're into cameras. But it's one of my favourites from the show. Anyway. We digress. What we'll do is initially open up our copy of OpenInsight that we have been working with, and we will log into the sysprog account because everything inherits from sysprog. So once we're in sysprog, we can go to File, New, Application, and we'll give the application a name. So we're just going to call this one Clinic, nice and easy. We'll give it a password. Now I can't use Clinic again because of our password protection policy that we set at sysprog level. So for no real reason, I'm going to call this Clinic_27, and that's with a capital C. So Clinic_27. The title will be Clinic Tutorial Application. It's going to be a fairly simple one. We'll select the default inheritance. You could inherit from examples if you want to, but we're just going to inherit from sysprog. We need to have a username, so I'm just going to set myself up. And the company. So in this one, we'll just call this Revelation Software for no real reason. Now you can set an abstract, which is just some information about the application. So this is simple application for use in creating the clinic, the OI10 tutorial videos. So you can be as descriptive or undescriptive, if that's a word, as you wish. It's no bearing on anything, it's just some abstract information. So we then click OK. OpenInsight is going to do a whole load of things very quickly, too quickly for me to talk about. It's added some tables, basically created the skeleton application for you. It then restarts OpenInsight in our Clinic application. We can tell it's Clinic because we have Clinic OI10 at the top here in the taskbar. So that's our application created. From here on, we are now into building stuff. But before we do that, I just want to go through a few more configuration things. I did touch on this before. So on the settings tab, we've now got the application settings. So if we go into here, we can see the title, where we're inheriting from, when it was created, the database. But if you need to, you can turn on UTF-8 character mode. If you are working on the continent, that's something that you might want to do. We'll also at some point set up an entry point for our application. Now we can't do that at this point because we haven't got a window to show. So we'll come back to that one a little bit later on. We can also create some permissions and relate documents and other bits and pieces in here. So we won't worry about that screen too much at the moment. The database environment settings. In here, you can set some general bits and pieces. So our default directories, so the data path. So if you want to drop your data into data file, then that's absolutely fine. I actually do things slightly differently. So under the RevSoft folder where we've got OpenInsight installed, what I normally do is to create myself, not there, that's in the wrong location. Let's just delete that folder. Yep. underneath the RevSoft folder, if I make a new one, I normally have a folder which is my initials, MP, and then underscore the name of the actual application. And then if I just OK that, it comes up as new folder. So we'll just need to go back in to this PC, go into the RevSoft folder, MDP Clinic, but I actually want to make a new folder under there called Data. And that is the folder where I will have the data held. So C RevSoft MP Clinic data. The sort path I'm going to leave as temp. Localization, if you want to set up your Windows locale or anything for international, then that's fine. I'm just going to leave the default. The debugger settings, I'm going to leave it as enabled. The Unix station ID I don't need to worry about because I'm running locally and I'm not really going to be doing anything with sequencing. So I'm going to leave most of these other items set as the default. But you can obviously look at these in more detail if you want to. Indexes and reports, there is a default stop list which you can add to. These are commands that you wouldn't use in the indexes and reports. The form defaults, so the heights and the width, if you want to set those, and other bits and pieces indexing. Concurrency, it's where you can set the concurrency options. The report security, so these will be tables that you exclude from your users. So you might have, let's say, a users table where you're maintaining some user information. You don't want your users to be able to report on that. You can exclude the table, or you can exclude the fields. And obviously we haven't got anything in here at the moment, so there is nothing to do in there either. But those are the application settings. Sorry, the database environment settings. We then got the IDE settings. Now we do want to make some changes in here. So under general, whether we want to save our workspace and show the start page and things, I tend to leave these all as true. The maximum most recently used items is set to 20. I've actually got quite a decent screen on mine, so you just set that to 30. And whether you want to show TCL or not, I usually have that set to true as well. The tool panels, this is where you can move where the tools appear. So for the database panel, do you want that to initially show? I've got mine set to false. I'll leave it as false for now, leave the defaults. And where do I want to locate it? So it's west, so on the right hand side of the screen. The quick launch panel, where I want that to show. The output panel, whether I want that showing and where, so I have mine at the bottom. So basically you can go through and just set all of these according to how you would prefer to see the interface. There's some global find and replace options for dialogues, and then in the forms designer you have the option to anchor forms and to minimize the ID on a test run. Again, I tend to stick with the defaults. Whether you want to show the grid in the forms designer, the size of the grid, and whether you want it to snap. Now again, I set mine to 4. Some people set their grid size smaller, some people set it to 8. It's entirely up to you. The default fonts, I'm happy with a Segoy 9 and a background color. Now the ID prefixes, I tend to prefer to change one or two of these. So BMP I'm happy with, a check BMP, I'm okay with those. Combo box, CBO is absolutely fine, but I often get myself confused because I'm used to doing it as CMB for combo. So I'll change that one. I also like my prefixes to be 3 characters. So we'll change this one to EBX underscore. The edit field, I tend to have those as edit lines. So I'll do EDL. The edit table, EDT. Group box I'm happy with, scroll bar, those I'm all happy with, list box, so we'll have the X. The MDI client won't worry about. Menu, MNU. The button I'm happy with, push button I'm happy with, so those I'm all okay with. Now a rich edit box is a difficult one, so we'll do a rich edit box, REB. but I tend to change it to RBX for rich box. Just what I'm used to. Label, I'm happy with. Tab, yeah, those are all okay. So once I'm done, I'll click OK. And then those are the prefixes that OpenInsight is going to use for me now. I'm going to create my label, and it's going to be left, but I'm not going to append a colon. Again, it's up to you whether you want to do that or not. It's your call. So the next thing we want to look at is the source code editor. Show line numbers. Normally you would want to, and the like. The editor interface, the code interface, I usually change the font from Courier New to, and I can never remember the name of it, I'll know when I see it. It's Consolus, I think. Yeah, Consolus, and I usually have that as 9. I just find that a nice, easier font to work with, but again, it's up to you which font you want to work with. Whether you want to autocomplete braces, so brackets we call them in the UK, but basically if you do an open bracket, OI will automatically put a closed bracket in for you. I'm going to leave it as false because I'm used to not having that, but if you're used to having that in other environments, then you can turn that on. And there's a number of other options in here that you can opt for as well. And I do want to colorize my text, so I'm happy with all of that. There's some printing options, so whether you want to print portrait or landscape, again you can just click on these and make your change if you want to. And whether you want to print headers and the like, again I'm going to leave that all as a default. The miscellaneous, for export dialogues, the default extension is TXT file. Again, you can change that if you wish. Email, if you're going to have an email server, you can define that in here with the email server, the name, username, password, and whether you're using SSL. Git, I haven't quite got my head around Git yet, but if you want to enable Git to manage your source code, particularly if you're working within a team, then simply turn Git on, give it the repository location, folder names, all the other command options that you need, and you'll be good to go. And Git is fully supported in OpenInsight 10. Now the console, we did look at the console very, very quickly earlier on. I'll look at it in a little bit more detail now. So the console, do I want to show it in startup? I don't particularly, I'm not that interested in all the stats, but if you're a database administrator, then you may want to see how your system is performing, so you might want to change that to true. On the engine server, I was lucky in that all of the defaults worked for me. I have got one that's wrong there. That should be 18088. That's incorrect because I made a change that I shouldn't have done earlier on. It was a typo. So let me just update defaults on that one. So 18088 is the port number, the UTF-8 port number, the web server port number. So this is whether you need to change any of your port numbers if you've got any clashes going on. And then the engine server configuration, if you click on the white area here, you get the options button come up. And then in here, we can set up the engine server. So whether we want to enable or disable UTF-8 connections, the number of engines that we are going to make available, so you can hold some back for processing other bits and pieces rather than have all of your users take all of them, and a whole load of different options in here. For the web server, again, whether we want to enable or disable the web server and what port it's running on. We can also set up the default connection details, so it automatically defaults to examples, but we could set that up for Clinic or whatever application that we want. And then any virtual directories, we can configure those in here as well. Our statistics server, we got the ability to disable or enable that, and again, the port numbers that it's running on and the listener. The command server, background processes that you might want to define, and debug settings. I'm going to keep all of these as the defaults. I'm not going to change anything in that one, but there is documentation for this in the eServer configuration documents. Let me just show you that right now. So if we go to wherever OpenInsight is installed, so RevSoft. We go to the Documents folder and we find the OEngine server configuration. It opens on my other screen, so let's drag that over here. In here, you've got configuring it, which is basically what we did in the previous video. And then you can see all the configuration settings and then how you can maintain it. So this is where we were just a moment ago. So in here, it grabs every single screen, and underneath all of the information you might need to know about properly configuring and changing the eServer configuration thing. Now this is the eServer configuration window in the desktop. There is also the ability to run the eServer configuration in O4W over the web, and these are the web screens. So everything is all documented, and there's loads and loads of different documents within OpenInsight 10 that you should browse through when you've got a few moments. So if we then close out of there for the settings, I'm not going to worry about O4W settings because we're not doing anything in there. And for users, if we go into a user setup, because I set up Martin in sysprog, that is now defaulted down, so I don't need to set myself up again. But if I wanted to have a user that was specific to this application, then I could set them up in here. And well, let's just do that now. I'll set up Bill. So we'll give him a full name of Bill Casely. We'll give him only access to the OpenInsight side of things. And I'm just going to set him up as a user. He won't like that because he's very technical, but never mind. We'll set up the app password to expire according to the policy. However, we can set it to never expire, which is what I did for mine. So we're going to do it that it expires according to the policy. We also get the opportunity to disable Bill, in other words, disable his account so he wouldn't be able to log in. That's great if you've got a problem with somebody or somebody's left and you don't want to give them access to the system. You can immediately disable their account. We wouldn't want to do that for Bill because he's a new user, so we'll go into the new password and we'll add a password in for him. So I'm going to put in here Bill _ Casely _ 272 and Bill _ Casely _ 272, and we're going to force him to reset his passwords next time. So if we just go up to users and save, then that's saved Bill into the system. Now on the settings for the policy setup, we can't actually get into at this level. That needs to be done at the sysprog level. So let's just come out of here a second and we'll go into the sysprog account. And I'll just show you how that works. So we got sysprog. Hey, we've got our new clinic application up there too. Woohoo! So in settings and the user policy setup in here, we are saying that we've got number of entries to check for repeats is 2, passwords expire in 30 days. Everything else is all okay in there. Number of attempts before users are locked is 5. And how long are they locked for? So just under 3 hours. Okay, so everything is all okay, and we can force the password reset for all users. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to force him to reset his password based on these items. So what we'll do is we'll come out and we'll go back into our application. I could have just switched within OI, I guess. And the username is going to be Bill, and the password is Bill Casely 272, I think. Password expires today, so you must reset the password. So we set him up with a password that we know. so your systems administrator can know the password. But we're now going to force Bill to change his password to something that he knows. And that's really quite nice. So enter your current password. So we'll have Bill Casely _272. And now we'll change it to Bill 12345 _27 and Bill 12345 _27. And I can see that I've got that wrong, but we can have a look here. So I've got a Bill missing, an L in Bill missing. So we've got Bill 1234527, Bill 124. I think we're good. We'll go OK, and the password has been changed. And there's no entry point defined for the application, so yeah, that's absolutely fine for the moment. So that's basically how you can set up users and force them to change their passwords for the future. And we've set up our application within our system. So if I just run up OpenInsight again, go to Clinic, and we'll go Clinic, and I'm not going to log in as Clinic because I'm going to log in as myself, because this is what I get used to. And we'll click OK. And we're back into the system. Now, the other thing that we can do at this point is on our shortcut. This is going to take us into the development mode, but we can go into properties. And at the moment, these properties are set thus that the application is sysprog. So let's change the application to Clinic. We're going to change the username to Martin. And I'm going to go as far as putting a password in here. Normally you wouldn't want to do that. If I go /pw equals revguy _27 and a space, then that's going to put the password in for me as well. And then DV is the development mode. So if you've got that =1, that's going to launch you into development mode. If you've got, I think it's RT, it will log you into the run mode, the runtime mode. And all these switches are documented within OpenInsight. So if I now apply that, if we now execute, it's going to run OpenInsight, and it's going to use those credentials to take me straight into the Clinic application without asking me for my username and password. So that's actually quite a dangerous thing to do in a real world environment. But for the purposes of following through these videos, because this application doesn't matter, you could set yourself up with the shortcut as I did just there, and it will take you straight in. And that's what I'm going to use for the rest of these videos. Anyway, thank you very much for today. Covered a fair bit, more than just creating an application. We created the application, we set up some more settings for the application level, and also configuring the user at the application level. So that user isn't set up in sysprog. They're only going to be actually able to use the Clinic application that we're building. They won't be able to go into sysprog and mess around at all. So that's it for today. In the next lesson, we'll probably have a look at creating a data table that we'll be building some forms against. So I'll catch you then. Take care for now. Bye-bye.